Let's start the show by talking about my sponsor, Paloma Verde, and their new website, palomaverdecbd.com. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out for all of your CBD needs. They've got the gummies, tinctures, salves. So if you're needing anything to maybe chill you out, something to help you get mellowed out, something for your joint pain and stiffness, go over to palomaverdecbd.com and give them a check out. Carlos and Vanessa are awesome people. They run a great company. And if you enter the promo code FACTS at checkout, you'll get 25% off your order. Plus, any order over $75, you get free shipping. So, I don't know what you're waiting for. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out. Let's start the show. This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast. All right, so I didn't have anything in particular planned. I'm just going to talk to you kind of about the comedy scene type stuff, because I've gotten to see you do your set a couple times now. And
yeah, I just sorry, I spoke weed. I just had a show last night. I was trying some new stuff in the middle of my set that was like, it was okay. Like, you know what it is? It's like when you start to do like work on new material, sometimes you'll have like a bit and you're like, oh, this is gonna be good, like from the inception of like that bit. And then there's some where you're like, I think this is funny. Like, let's see where it goes. And like, I've been working on this fucking dumb genie joke for like a year, like more than a year probably. And like, sometimes like it gets a laugh, but like, I'm trying to essentially say genies are cool with rape, but not making you fall in love with a person, because that's one of their rules, which is psychotic to me. So genies have 3 rules, right? Genies have 3 rules. It's you can't raise the dead, they can't kill someone, and they can't make you fall in love with someone. Right? So like theoretically, you'd be like, oh, can I just fuck that person? Like, yeah, that's cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like, I'm trying to say that without saying genies are cool with rape, but like it's been a struggle.
because there's no good way to say that, the genies are cool with non-consensually.
Yeah, and the whole point of the bit is that's fucked up. Like, what are their morals? You know, like that's their morals. Like, but like no one's getting past that part. It's just kind of.
And at that point, it would just be more beneficial if the genie would just make her fall in love with you. And
it's so much less forceful when you think about it that way. It's so much more. Yeah, it's like you could form a bond or something, but that just like, no, go ahead, go to town, dude. Like high fives you on the way. That's like, it's just weird to me that like that was a rule, but the other one wasn't. So that joke went over, not so great. And I had some other new stuff that was okay, but I just got to work on it.
Well, your set, I mean, like for our group, some of the more political stuff, because you do kind of talk about some semi-political stuff. I mean,
yeah, like the TSA and stuff.
Yeah. And like,
sure.
that's good for like our group. Like that kind of stuff is, at least at the times I've seen you, that stuff has hit well. But like for average people, how do average people take that?
So because you see me, if you like, I really don't have to. That's really the only, I would say, like political joke I kind of even do is that TSA joke. Because like because I don't do comedy purely for like libertarians, you know what I'm saying? So like I still do comedy for like regular people and stuff. Like last night was a regular show, and so I feel like talking about politics a lot, unless you're really good at it. Like, Dave's really good at it. Like Robbie's really good at it too. But I'm just okay at it. And like I find myself like I'm not good enough to not divide a room, I think. And I don't want to do that. Like, people are there to have a good time. I don't want to be like, and this is what I think about Biden. Like, whatever. People are like, I don't care, dude. Just talk about your dick. I'm like, okay. So like, I'll just stick to the stuff that I know that I'm good at. I know people will enjoy. I'll just do that. The TSA joke came out of like real life stories, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, I could talk about being a libertarian too with that, but like that's kind of the only real political joke I do.
That's cool. So do you find that some of the best comedy material actually comes from real life situations?
Oh, I mean, everything you've ever heard me say is either true or a variation of a true story. Like I I find it difficult personally to like make stuff up and lie. Like, and obviously embellishing is like what we do. I don't mean that. I mean like I fucking stupid joke about the deer. Like, oh, I was high but I don't want to give it away. But like that really happened to me. Like I was fucking too high driving. Like, oh, there's deer. Like, oh no. Like, like that's happened. Like all this shit's happened to me. And then of course, like the TSA thing, even that story, that's happened to me. But I embellish, obviously the bulk of that, like me being super, super, super flamboyantly like disruptive. Like I'm not actually doing that
Right.
because I don't want to get fucking thrown in a fucking Mexican prison overnight. So like, but like obviously for the joke, it's funny if I fucking play it up like I'm an asshole. But I don't know, like I've tried like when I was younger doing comedy to try to be like, oh, so I was at the store the other day and like this, and like it's just disingenuous and like people I felt like felt it. They're like, no, it didn't. Like, yeah, you're right. So
I feel like you can always kind of tell. It's kind of like the fake Twitter stories where the parents talk about
yeah.
their kid cried tears of joy because of this gay rights thing that got passed or some dumb shit. Like, no, that didn't happen. Like with comedy, you can tell when the story is fake, and it's like, yeah, that never happened. Like, cool story, and that's fun, but
and like I know comics that do that and they're good. It's just that's not my thing. I'd rather just be like, no, this what happened to me when I was like 16. It's crazy. Now you guys know about it. Or like, hey, this is like, what my wife thinks, or this is, oh, hey, what I think about fucking what I could do. Like it's just more genuine. I think that people are like, all right, he's actually talking from his like real life, real experiences, real stuff. And it's like, okay, it's funny. I feel like it's also funnier that way for the normal person too. Like even as a non-comic, like a lot of people just draw their own lives for like funny stories. So it's a very relatable thing.
so what's some of the challenges between doing like stand up where you're solo and doing something like the Cult of Us where you have other people on there with you and you get to have a little more back and forth? Like for doing this sort of thing, whenever I do like solo episodes, unless I have a pretty good plan and know what I'm going to talk about, I'll get like sidetracked in my head. But if I have somebody else to have a conversation with, then we can play off of each other and it can kind of flow. And so like for serious conversations or for funny conversations, I feel like that uh, kind of eases things a little bit. So what are some of the challenges of going solo versus like doing stuff with other people?
Well, when you're mentally ill, all the voices are always with you. So it doesn't really matter. You're never really alone. uh, like when you're just doing like solo stuff, it's a lot more pressure. Right now, like the porcupine, like yeah, like I make jokes and like I try to be funny, but like it's not. I don't have to rely on it being a funny episode, right? Because it's not technically a comedy podcast; it's a political podcast that is hosted by a comic who still jokes around about dick stuff and politics, right? So like I could get away with that, but like if I just do like a serious episode one day, no one's gonna be like, "Well, why didn't you talk about your asshole?" No one's gonna be like, "Why didn't you say that bump's stupid?" It's like no one's gonna be like that. It's like, oh, it's still libertarian stuff. But like if Neil and I do an episode of The Cult of Us and it fucking just bombs the whole way through, it's like, oh, that's a comedy podcast. It's rough. We gotta be better at that. So, but luckily, like with comedy stuff, especially going off a second or third person, it's way easier, in my opinion, than sitting there solo and just trying to be like funny. Like what Tim Dillon does is amazing to me. How he could just like, I mean, I know he has his producer there and he kind of bounces some stuff off of, but like pretty much he's just doing like a solo fucking rant each podcast and it's good and it's funny, and I'm like, damn, dude, I thought I could do that for maybe 4 minutes. Like maybe 4 minutes. I'm like, I don't know, guys. Someone asked me a question. Like I start to collapse into myself like a dying star. I'll be like, no. But then of course, like doing solo stuff, like you get more like I guess creative freedom. I can do whatever the fuck I want. And no like and no one's gonna tell me no. Like, oh, I don't think we should do that. But that could also hurt me too, right? I'm like, no, I'm doing this, and I have no one to check me. And then Bond's like, fuck, I should have had someone to check me. But then, when I'm with Neil doing Cult of Us, and even our producer Jesse, who he's a comic too, so like we just kind of three comics on the show. And sometimes I'd be like, is this funny? They'd be like, no. I'm like, okay, good. Thank you for letting me know. Before I went out there into the world to present this, because I had someone to bounce it off of me, So pros and cons for everything, really.
Yeah, I when I first started doing this little show, I did everything. It was all solo, and it was just kind of rant stuff. And like I would think in my mind, I think I've got like this really good rant, and I'm going to go for a good 20, 30 minutes. Like I'm going to really knock it out, and then like 8 minutes later, I'm done, and I'm like, well, shit. Now I gotta figure out what I'm going to talk about for the rest of the time that I was planning to burn for this, and yeah, it never works out in my brain the way it's supposed to. Like, so how much with the comedy stuff and doing stand up and solo shows and stuff like that? How much time do you spend like practicing or working on, like kind of honing in the material, or maybe working on new material, stuff like that? Like, is that a
yeah? Like everyone's different. Like Neil's a big like, oh, I gotta write today. I'm like, okay. Fucking nerd. It's like he's like dedicated. Like he's not wrong on busting his balls, but like he some guys or comics, like they're like, every day I'm gonna sit down and write like just what's on my brain, try to make something fun. I can't really do that. Like if I have a thought, I could sit down and I do that, right? If I have a thought already of a joke, I'm like, oh, okay, let me sit down and try to like work it out. Actually try to like formulate this better. But if I have nothing popping around in my brain, I can't just force myself to. It's very hard for me because I get bored. I just start to be like, oh, I don't know. Oh, fucking video games, like phones. Like I'll do anything else because I'm like, I don't feel it. It's like unjoyous. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm rape. It's like I'm being forced. It's like a rape writing joke. So it's like against my own will. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, this sucks. I don't want. But it is important, and I think if you have, however your style is, if it strikes you, just write and get it out there, and then go try it. Which is like where open mics come into play. And there's another argument I've been having with Neil lately. Is like, listen, I've been doing comedy 9 years. He's been doing comedy, I think, 8 or 9 years too. So we've been doing like the same amount of time. And like he lives in Philly. I live outside of Philly. There's a lot of open mics in Philly, right? Like a shit ton. Like 7 a night. Like 7 every other fucking day. Point is, there's a bunch of fucking mics in Philly. Like, so he's like, hey, I'm going to this mic. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not going to drive 40 minutes, 45 minutes in Philly to do an open mic, not get paid, like take time away from, the wife, the dog, like for an open mic. Like I'm not saying I'm above open mics at all. And like, of course, like I just kind of ate shit in the middle of my set yesterday, like with new shit, right? So, and that was a real show. But like, I'm still good enough, and I still have a material where, oh, if that stuff eats shit, I could just dig myself out of that hole. I'm not a new comic where I'm like, oh, that's all I have. Sorry. Like, no, that was. So like when like I said, the genie stuff is doing okay. Some other stuff some other stuff just got like me stares, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna ditch this and just go into, hey, dear joke that crushes. I just tell like, thank you. I leave because I'm like, yeah, he was like. So what I try to do now is on shows, I'll try to work in newer stuff in the middle of my set because I have a real audience in front of me, and I get a real time feedback of like, oh, is this bad or not? Now, open mics, this is how open mics go. There's no crowd. The crowd is 14 to 27 other comics who don't give a shit about you. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't even look at you. Half of them are outside smoking. Me included. Right? Because everyone, comedy is also selfish, honestly. And like, everyone's like, I care about why I'm sad. I don't care about why you're sad. So I just want to go up. It's like, those people you talk to where they ask you a question, but they're really just waiting for you to finish so they can tell you their answer. Like, they don't really care. That's what open mics are. That's all it is. It's like, the first 3 comics who go up to open mics, people are listening, and then that's it. That is it. And so I'm like, so my argument to Neil all the time I was like, bud, why would I waste so much fucking time out of my night for free to go hang out with my friends that I'm just gonna see the weekend anyway because we're doing a show? You know, it's like, and like get no real feedback from this. Because like I could go up to an open mic and tell a material, and I would probably bomb because no one's listening to me. And then, but so if you're a young comic and you might have a great joke and you go to 3 open mics with shitty comics who don't give a shit, and then that joke that would legitimately be funny, you might never ever even try because you're like, oh well, no one laughed the 3 times I went. I'm like, yeah, because comics are scumbags. We're the biggest fucking scumbags in the entertainment industry. You know what I'm saying? Like they're all the selfish fucking cunts. Everybody, all of them. So it's just like I don't really benefit a lot. And there are some open mics where they actually get like a real crowd, and those are worth doing, 100%. It's just I don't know. I'm just having such a sour taste in my mouth from open mics from just doing comedy so long. Honestly, that's my take at open mics.
So on that talking about like other comics, it was really funny when you were on with Josh Smith talking about how like when y'all would try to bring other comics on the Cult of Us and have conversations with them, and then they're just like not funny at all. What is that? What is that like interacting and engaging with them like outside of their sets and stuff like that? Like,
so yeah, so for like if people who watch the Cult of Us listen to Cult of Us, like we rarely have on guests. Rarely. It's usually just Neil, myself, and Jesse, our producer, who's a comic. He's kind of the unofficial third mic of the show, right? We would have on, friends of ours who are very funny on stage, like very fun. Like they're not funny. They're very funny comics. And then we're like, hey, come on the podcast. Like, let's hang out and shoot the shit. Because we're very much like not as funny as Legion of Skanks, obviously, but like that's we're just hanging out. We're riffing on shit. We're just comics joking around, making fun of ourselves. And then they come on and they just be sitting here like waiting for like a question to be like, hey, we're not interviewing you. Who do you think you fucking are? You think you're Bill Burr? Like, fucking make a dick joke and fucking jump. And like more than half, like couldn't just jump in and riff with us. Like they would take things like seriously or like just not be funny or be quiet or be expecting to be like an interview. And like they want to come about like their fucking like, dude, we don't care about what you got going on. Like the whole point is to come on here, riff with us. If people find you interesting, then they're gonna look out for you. And like, yeah, of course, plug your shit. Like, when we do plugs, but like just be funny. It's all. And like, so many people just come on and just sit there like blank. We had this one guy, Lyle, who's a very funny comic. In fact, he's huge on TikTok right now. I think he's a weird dude. Okay, Kyle's a weird kid. He's like 22, 23. He's young. And how I met Kyle Lyle is him and this guy Dave Hogsett, who's also a funny comic. They're young Philly kids. They were in college. They were in Temple at the time, and they would put on shows in their basement apartment. And I'm telling you, these shows were fucking sick. They packed it out with like 20, 21-year-old kids who are all, and like they're all there for comedy. And I would do shows there all the fucking time and just fucking hang out and just fucking tell great jokes. We would hang out upstairs with the other comics, and like all these guys were funny. Right now, I think Lyle is doing like this frog character on TikTok, and he's like gigantic on TikTok right now. He's playing like a frog who answers questions from people. Like he's weird, but he's quirky, funny. So we invite Lyle and Dave on, and Lyle comes dressed in like clown makeup, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Like this is gonna be good, right? This is gonna be a good. He has a bit planned. I'm all for it. And then we start the podcast, and he just doesn't even acknowledge the makeup. And we're like, hey man, what the fuck's with the thing? Because this is like 8 minutes in this episode now. Like we thought, like, are we gonna have to bring it up? Is that the bit? And then he's like, I thought about doing a whole bit with clown makeup, but I bailed on it last minute. Hey, dude, too late. Go with it. Go with it at this point, guy.
Right, like at this point, you're already on the show in makeup. Like you're committed beyond like bailing on it.
You know, it's like so shit like that. Like we just got sick of.
At least give it the old college try.
Yeah, literally the college try. It's like, so we just kind of got like, you know, tired of like just again comics who were funny who just kind of sucked on the mic of hanging out. So like, you know what, dude, let's just do it solo because we're better off that way. And then we'll just invite people we know for sure are funny in conversation. So like every guest we have on now is like, you know, it's going to be good. Like they're funny. Trust us. Like you're going to enjoy this episode. That's what we got to do.
Somebody that's actually a normal human being and can have good interaction, not have to go off of a script or be in front of an audience.
Pretty much. It's wild, but it happens.
So you've mentioned Temple and Philly, and that you are actually in my former stomping grounds. I lived in Bucks County for a little over a year. And so are you from that area originally? Like, have you always lived there? Or?
No, I'm from Staten Island, New York. I'm a New Yorker. Cool.
Yeah. How did you land there?
Marriage. She's from here.
Oh, cool.
And it's so much nicer here than New York. Oh my God, especially now. This is all way pre-COVID stuff, right? So like, but even back then, like, the housing market there, even Staten Island is like impossible to like afford a home. Even if you make good money, like it's still like if you want to live in a good neighborhood, it's like $600,000 to buy a fucking regular house, dude. So my parents are trying to get the fuck out of there. Like they are selling their house. They originally bought that house in I think 95 or 90, 95 for like $150,000, and they're looking to sell it for over $600,000. And that's like, oh yeah, it will sell like instantly. It's crazy. So yeah, we were like, no, we're gonna stay in Newtown. We're gonna fuck New York. No, it's just too expensive. And then now with all the, you know, you can't go anywhere literally without a fucking passport. They just reinstated an indoor mask mandate for no reason. like all this shit. So now I'm glad we're out here. But no, Newtown's cool. Like I don't mind Bucks at all. It's like way cheaper. You know, obviously Pennsylvania has like no sales tax and shit. So like that's cool. Yeah, no, it's way better. I definitely like living out here better.
Yeah, I lived in Yardley at first.
That's right next door.
Yeah. And then I moved into a little apartment in Morrisville.
Which is also kind of not too far either.
Yeah, it's like right there as well. And it was nice. The apartment, I worked just south of Trenton. So the little apartment was like when you came across the bridge in Trenton, the apartment was right there. So it was like perfect. I could just I had like a 10-minute drive home from work every day, and it was really nice. So that was pretty much my sole motivation because otherwise the apartment was not nice, but I didn't need a nice place. I just needed somewhere to go to sleep every night. So that was.
Isn't such a dude? It's such dude logic. It's like I don't care. I don't have to look at this shit all day. It's like I just got to sleep with my eyes closed in it.
I even I didn't have any friends or family up there when I was living up there, so I got a second job. I was a cook at Buffalo Wild Wings, and so like when I wasn't at my full-time job, I was a cook at Buffalo Wild Wings, and
right.
I told them I would work anytime they wanted me to, as long as they would put either the Mississippi State or the Green Bay Packers on the TV right outside the kitchen so that I could watch the game while I cooked.
That's fair.
And so I just hung out and ate a lot of wings and cooked, and like I was literally never home in the year that I lived up there.
Yeah, as far as fast food places go, like Buffalo Wild Wings used to be good. Like my wife and I used to go there like on Staten Island all the time, and like all the time, even out here. And then I don't know what happened. I want to kind of say since like at least COVID, like they suck now. Like they're real bad, but they used to be fucking good. What happened? Give me insider knowledge on that. What happened?
I don't know. That's we've got Buffalo Wild Wings down here, and we've also got Wings Etc. And we'll go to Wings Etc. all day, any day over Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's like something changed.
I hate when they do that. Like I used to enjoy. Like we never like we go out to eat a lot. But we never go out to like like fucking Chili's and so like we rarely will ever do that. We usually go to like these local joints, but yeah, we used to enjoy that place and just fucking it's straight trash now. I feel like you're eating just chicken assholes. Like it's like a rubbery chicken assholes. That's what it feels like you're eating there now. I hate it.
I think some of the suppliers, which it's probably it may be exclusively due to COVID, but I think some of the suppliers on some of that stuff changed because like for the restaurant industry, most of them get all of that stuff from 2 or 3 different like big wholesale suppliers for the chicken, the fries, stuff like that, and it's interesting because there is a little bit of overlap. Like certain restaurants use the same type of fry, so it was funny. We ran out of fries one night when I was working at there at the Buffalo Wild Wings, and they were trying to figure out which other chain it was there in town that used the same kind of fries as what Buffalo Wild Wings did, so that we could see if we could borrow some from them to get us through the night until the truck was going to come in the next morning. Like it's funny how all of those restaurants kind of have certain levels of connection, even though you would like never expect it. And so
yeah. That's why, like, again, I feel it's just so, especially now, dude. It's like fake food almost.
It really is.
It's gross. Like I'd rather make my own wings, dude.
That's like I hate going somewhere with somebody and they order like pasta or something. I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like,
unless you're going to like a legit Italian joint,
right? But if it's like one of the the fast food style sit down places,
right?
They are taking prepackaged noodles and sauce, throwing it in this little plastic container, sticking it in a microwave for about 2.5 minutes, and then they dump it in the bowl. They mix it up where it looks pretty, and then they send it out to you. Like it's garbage food.
Yeah, it's straight garbage food.
It's all garbage food.
Yeah, but anyway, so we don't have guests on anymore,
and that's understandable.
Well, we do, but just tried and true guys. Like we had on our friend Dylan and Kevin, very funny comics from New York, and we were talking about the Jackson 5, and Dylan's young, like 21, 22, and like he just didn't really know who they were. And it was like a whole bit on the fucking episode, you know what I'm saying? He's like shit like that. He's like funny, like that's what. But you can't force those type of things. So far and few between. Yeah,
a lot of times it feels like stuff like that has to happen organically, and so I guess you do get a certain extent of hit and miss with that, because like you might have something planned that completely misses, but then something else will come up that just like out of nowhere, somebody will say something to sidetrack that sidetracks the conversation, and it turns into something that's just like fucking hilarious, and everybody gets to go on a roll with it, and it's you can't schedule that kind of stuff or plan that kind of stuff. It just has to happen. And when it does happen, it's like, if you're lucky enough that you're recording, then you like capture lightning in a bottle. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like there's that thing of like, don't repeat it. Like the joke the second time around is never as funny usually, like in a moment thing. Like that's why if you stutter a joke, it's like, fuck, just let it go. Like, if you're trying to insult someone and it comes out as a stutter, just stop. Just stop, because it's gonna easily get turned around on you. That's the one great thing about like doing like being in comedy and like hanging around with fucking assholes, is you're really good at putting it back on someone else and like absorbing shots and trying to fucking like re-Hadouken it back out like into the world. So like also sharks in the water, dude. If once everyone senses blood in the water and you're the bloody target, good luck. You're just fighting off fucking bull sharks like a sight, like in the water, like the USS Indianapolis. Like, get back, fucking get back. It's on you, and you gotta try to. And then like sometimes your redirects don't work. You'd be like, well, what about fucking Jesse? He's fucking fat. Like, nah, nice try, stupid. You're like, damn it. You get fucking roasted. Fuck. This is on me now. That's it.
See, I feel like it's a lot like I grew up very very rural and like with all the old farm boys and farm hands and stuff. If somebody does something stupid, then everybody just will ride them into the ground, and it's hilarious. Like everybody, it's nothing, it's nothing intended to be hurtful out of it. It's all, a bunch of dumbasses having fun and picking on each other. And sure enough, at some point somebody else is going to do something equally stupid or more so,
Exactly.
and then everybody will turn on
Of
them, and
course.
you know.
One of my favorite bits to do, and I totally stole it from like Jim Norton, because those guys used to do it to each other. But it's like we're all just cracking jokes, and someone just bombs a joke, like it's not funny, and I'll be like, "Oh, I didn't hear you say it again." And then as he goes, "Say it again," I go, "I heard it." It just shut. It's like, oh, it's like so mean. I love doing that though. Like, no, 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 say it again. Say it again. We sitting here. We were all talking. Say it again. And be like, no, no. Or they say it again. I'll let them say the whole thing again. This is me. This is the Jim Norton bit. I'll say the whole thing again and be like, yeah, it wasn't funny the second time around either, was it? just, you know, just let him eat shit twice. That's fun too. Just let him hang themselves. It's me and my buddy Blaze, if I go on the road, I take Blaze with me a lot. Like he'll open for me. My buddy Blaze Gagakis, who's very funny, and we play video games with his brother and his brother's friend, and his brother. They're 21 years old, 20 years old. Fucking, they're still dumb. And this kid Dan, who's in the group, I know he kind of looks up to Blaze and I, like with jokes and stuff like that. He's like, he's like, oh, you guys are funny. I want to try to be funny too. But he just doesn't have it, man. He's just not funny. He's not naturally. So he'll just fucking constantly be eating shit in like the fucking Xbox chats, and we'll just be like, play like the cricket sounds over our phones, just fucking play the bombing sounds over them. Feel like, yeah, how's it feel? How's it feel to eat shit? It's so funny. It's so fun to do. But it's also like when it happens to me, like I appreciate the funny in it. Because I understand how funny that is. Like, it's just fun to bust your friend's balls about just bombing. It's just fun. Unless you're the one bombing, you're like, it sucks. But you still appreciate the fun in it.
I feel like more people with our like super oversensitized society that we live in, and everybody gets offended and shit. Like, y'all didn't spend enough time on a farm just getting your balls broke. You didn't spend enough time with comics, like having everybody just solo or single you out and ride you for a day or so, or like,
Yeah. Like,
I've worked in like big factory settings, and those guys are hard on each other. Like, they go hard, and one guy might be the butt of the jokes today and somebody else tomorrow, and like it's all good humor, and every one of those guys would take a bullet or deliver one for each other any day of the week. But if you happen to walk out, middle of a shift, you would think they absolutely hate each other, the way they just go
yeah.
after each other nonstop. Like, it's
Also, like growing up as an Italian from Staten Island, like growing up with that group of friends, which is all other Italian and Irish kids who are all dicks also. Like, you're constantly like, I'm like, I feel like Bane. Like, I grew up in the fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up just constantly having a battle with and fists. Like, because especially like not with your friend group, but like Staten Italy, as we call it. Staten Italy was broke down into like, neighborhoods. So like, if the other neighboring kids come over to challenge like us in a football game, like if they talk shit, it's like, okay, well, we're fighting now. Like what I'm saying, like, this is the fight. Like, we're not friends, so you don't say that to me. Now we're gonna fight. So like my whole life, all I knew was growing up either just roasting or fucking fighting somebody over words. It's all I knew. So it's like I was like, yeah, like I'm born in the darkness and molded by it. It's like, so like now it's like, yeah, it's easy for me to fucking just sit there and just just start roasting shit. Also, this is for all you people out there who aren't comics and are bad at this. Here's a fun tip or a good tip. If you're getting roasted, as soon as the first person tries to roast you, very quick. It has to be almost rapid fire response. You have to come back with something like, I don't know, why is your hairline starting in the middle of your fucking head? And they'd be like, what? Like, it has to be so fast that everyone else is like, oh shit. Like, it has to be so fast that initial joke almost is like erased, like fucking the neuralizer in fucking Men in Black. Like, they just forgot that existed because your comeback has to be so brutal and fast and honest. Because that seems to be the trick. People will be like, oh, fuck you. And it immediately turns another person. So all you out there, try it out.
Our 10-year-old is the queen of that. Like, because the kids will pick that. It's probably my fault. The kids will pick on each other pretty nonstop, and I pick on them as well.
You should.
I mean, they should. They should learn to be comfortable with being bullied, and I'll bully them as much as I need to make sure that happens.
It also builds character. Like, it makes you not a pussy.
Yeah,
like it just does. Like, I can't. So I have a theory on, like, I finish your story. I don't want to go into the whole rant.
Just anytime they'll get to going after each other, especially, and we've got two older ones that don't live with us. My wife has an 18-year-old son who he lives on his own, and then a 16-year-old daughter that lives with her dad. And so, especially if the older ones are here, like, they'll try to pick on the younger ones. And if they go at her with anything, the youngest one, she's like instantly right back at them, and then she will just ride that forever. Like, my stepson, he had his hair like bleached, and he looked like a burnt biscuit. Like, it was dark on the bottom, but it was like bleached on the top.
Yeah.
And he said something like, being a smart ass, going at her, and she's, all right, burnt biscuit. And like, that was it. That was her retort. And it just killed. And so now anytime he comes around, if he starts trying to pick on her, she breaks out the burnt biscuit, and he just, like, his face turns bright red, and it shuts him down immediately. It's beautiful.
Dude, I'm telling you, that shit builds character. It makes you not a pussy. Like, so I have a theory that the young generation you see today are the children of, like, Generation X, pretty much. Right?
Yep.
And I feel like Generation X is the generation of helicopter parenting. So, like, they always kind of taught their so Gen Z is kind of Gen X's fault. So Gen Z has always been taught, like, to look to authority to solve a problem. Like, they always, like, because their parents are so on top of everything, they would always like, oh, I'll handle this for you, Billy, or I'll handle this for you. Oh, I'll talk to that teacher for you. Oh, I'm gonna get that kid in trouble for making fun. So it's always because they're so fucking constricting. So I think that gets taught to these kids. So these kids, instead of just handling something themselves and not just getting offended over everything, they look to an authority figure to be like, solve this problem for me. He made fun of me. It's their fault. But we didn't have that. Like, I'm technically a millennial, right? It's, I think, 1980 to like fucking 92 or 3 or something, or 6 or 5. It's like, it's too. I think the 84 or 85 to like 92 crowd, or not even like the 90 crowd, is kind of, we're our own thing. Because, like, I'm not like the 1980 millennial, but I'm not a fucking 95 kid. Like, I was born in 86. So I grew up remembering all of the 90s. Like, I lived with a conscience the whole time in the 90s. If you were born in 94, you don't remember the 90s, so you're 99 maybe? You're not a 90s kid. Like, I'm a legitimate 90s kid. Like, legitimately. Like, I was 5 years old in 90 or 90, the end of 90, right? So, like, or 4 or whatever. So, like, our parents were boomers. And they're like, figure it out. Like, go outside, play. Yeah. Like, and don't get me wrong. Like, my parents, like, I'm the only child, so I definitely probably got. My mom was probably a little more sensitive to me because I was the only kid. But even still, she wasn't like over coddling, really. You know, she'd still be like, no, you got to figure this out. You got to do it yourself. You got to, you know, like, again, my dad was, me and my dad are best friends. He was very loving my whole life. He wasn't like a stern father, but, you know, he's like, hey man, you got to fight back, or you got to punch that kid in his face if he's bullying you. Like, you can't, I'm not going to do this for you. You know, and he's right. And like, I'm super super like glad that I got taught that, at least, even the hard way. A lot of times, like I would just get beat up when I was younger. I was like, oh, I should learn how to fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to learn how to be funny. I got to learn this shit. Or like, it's in the fire. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like literally Bane. Like, you're born in it. So like, so that's why I feel like most of my generation is like, it is what it is, dude. Just fucking plow through it. Whatever the problem is, plow through it. And the generation right after us is like, teacher, teacher. And that's why they fucking suck the state's dick so much, I think. It's because of that. That's their authority figure now as adults or young adults. They're like, but the president said, and that means it's good. It's like, okay, you're retarded. You know, it's like,
Yeah, my weekends pretty much when I was a kid, which I grew up on a farm. So, but I'd get up on like Saturday mornings and eat breakfast, and then I would walk out the door, and that was it. I'm gone. Like I would be 3 miles away in the woods somewhere. Like I wouldn't come back. I'd be gone for the day. Or like during the summer, my dad would get me and my brother up, and he would feed us breakfast, and then he'd drive us out to a field and just drop us off and be like, "All right, I'll come back and get you for lunch." And like our job was to go out and pull weeds and stuff. Like we would just be dumped in a field, like
like stray cats. Like people go like they can't keep a cat anymore. Like, all right, this is your home now.
yeah, we just get dumped in a field somewhere, and he'd be like, "All right, I'll come back and get you for lunch." And
yeah, I remember plenty of times, dude, just being like, "Yeah, I'll go out to play football," and I come home at like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
and no one was like, "Where were you?" They'd be like, "How was your day?" I was like, "I didn't get raped or molested. It's pretty good."
that's even some of my friends. Their parents were a little more strict. Like for me, when I was in high school and stuff, when I left the house, my curfew was 11 o'clock that night. So whether I left the house at 8 o'clock that morning or at 10 o'clock that night, my curfew was 11 o'clock that night. So like some of my friends, like their curfew depended on when they left the house. Like their parents wanted them home earlier if they left, like if they were gone all day, and
Right.
mine didn't care. So like as long as I wasn't in jail or dead, and do whatever you want, and be smart, be safe, come home.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the approach I take with my kids. Like some of our friends here and stuff, like in the summers, I'll I will physically lock the kids out of the house and be like, go play in the neighborhood. Like, don't fucking come back. I don't want to see you for at least 2 hours. Like, leave me alone and go play. And some of our like friends and stuff, they're like, oh, you can't do that to those kids. I'm like, I just did it. So, like, if you're worried about them, you can come try to find them, but they're somewhere in the neighborhood, and I don't know where it is. Like,
we used to walk to the deli all the time in our neighborhood, which is like mad far as kids. Like no one gave a shit. We used to go to Rocco's all the time. It's called Rocco's. Still there. But like, yeah, we would go, and like it's not like my parents were like, "Oh, you went to Rocco's?" Like, "Oh, how was Rocco's?" Like, "Oh, it was good." Arduous walk. It was a journey. It was like every walk, like as a kid, was like a fucking Lord of the Rings like trek. You just like fucking gone, and you're like, I don't know what to run into. I can run into elves. I can run into fucking ogre. I don't fucking know. I have no weapons on me. I don't have. Also, no phone back then.
See, that's something that's really interesting, is because everybody's so connected. Like, we would deliberately spend the night at my buddy Tim's house because they didn't have a phone in the house. So, so obviously we're not actually staying at Tim's, but we're staying at Tim's. That way nobody can actually get a hold of us. And so like one night we were going to stay at Tim's, but we were actually going to this nightclub that was an hour or so away. And I was straight up with my dad. Like I told him, we're going to this nightclub, and like we'll stay there until it closes, and then we'll come back. Well, Dad needed me for something, and because they didn't have a phone at Tim's house, and because it's a small town and everybody knows everybody, he called the police department and told them that whenever they saw me, to give me this message that he needed me to come home the next day because we had all this stuff to do on the farm. And so when we leave the nightclub, me and my buddy, who I went down there with, as we're on our way back, we had stopped to piss under an overpass or something dumb, and we swapped vehicles. So he was in my truck and I was in his car. As soon as we hit town, the cops are on him and pull him over. I'm like, ooh, fuck this. And I go the other way and like take the long way around and go back to Tim's house. He's like, dude, you just fucking left me there. Like the cops pulled me over and you drove off. I'm like, hey, that's your problem.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Dude, it's like I always had a authority problem. Like I always hated authority, right? Like again, thinking like as a kid, like my parents are like, "Well, come home for 9," which isn't unreasonable at all. I'd be like, "Why?" It's like immediately, it's like, "No, I don't want to." I'm just I'm like a contrarian with that shit. Like, at least if I get told something, I'm like, "No, now I'm doing it." And I think it started from when I was a kid. And my mom says to this day, she's like, "Dude, you have such an authority problem." I was like, "Yeah, I do. That's why I'm a libertarian." We all have authority problems. Like a lot of it stems from my childhood. Just be like, "Nah, I don't want to do what you say." And just carry it over. I hate
What
being
is the
told what to do.
what is the problem with the ultra compliant society that we live in? Like, I'm the same way. I've never been good with authority. Like, if somebody tells me to do something, my initial response is why. Like, what's the logic behind that? Like, my my ex was in the military, and she would call me and tell me about all this stuff that they would have them do in basic. I'm like, yeah, but why? Like, what's the point of that? And she was like, well, because they said we're supposed to do it. I'm like, I don't think the military is for me. Like, I need a logical reasoning for why I need to do this. Like, that just doesn't make sense to just go do it because somebody said to do it. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree. It's
and too much of society now is just okay. They said wear the mask, so you wear the mask. They said get your shot, so you get your shot. Like,
I've been thinking
oh,
about this too recently. I think because you and I, and everyone in our bubble or circle, whatever the fuck you want to call it, we know too much. As in, like, we know they're lying. We know everything's bullshit, conspiracy, whatever conspiracy, everything's fake. But the average person doesn't believe that. So when we're telling them, like, well, I'm not listening to this fucking scumbag president or this governor or whatever, they automatically assume, like, well, why would they be lying? And you're like, because that's what they do. And then, like, you have to have that conversation. And that's like obviously, that's one of the biggest icebreakers, right? It's to try to turn people on to being like, this is all evil. And they're like, no, they're just looking out for you. And you're like, you mother. So that's the first obstacle. And we're already looking at the second obstacle, which are we're looking at the second part, you and I, right? We're like, no, fuck this. They're not even at there. They're not at that stop sign yet. They're still at the fucking stop sign before that. That's why. That's what it is. So you have to break the first barrier for them to get the second barrier. Be like, oh yeah, why would you say this? Because some people are trusting automatically.
so one of the things that I try to point out to people is like, look at where is your governor from? Where is this uh, senator or congressman from? Because a lot of them, they're not from your state. They're not
Right.
from that place that they represent. They're they are a career politician or have had some political connections since they were young in college, that they have been placed in a position in a place to get this position. Like
Dude,
they're
Hillary
not
Clinton, when she was the senator of New York, it's like, bitch, you don't live here.
right. Like he wasn't a. So I'm originally from Kentucky, and Matt Bevins, the guy who was the governor before their current shit show of a commie, um, he was kind of the populist right style of governor, and he was a good fit for Kentucky at that time. But he's not. He wasn't from Kentucky. He had moved, or he was, transplanted to Kentucky from Texas or Oklahoma or somewhere out west. Like he fit the criteria for a good GOP candidate that could win in Kentucky. Like it was like, and too many of them. Like I think Thomas Massey is legit, like from Kentucky, and
I think so too.
but the number of uh, congressmen and senators and governors who are actually like homegrown and really native to their state and to their district, it's pretty few and far between. And so like that's one of the things
I
that I
agree.
try to point out to people. I'm like, why would you trust this person when this person was a plant to begin with? Like,
Yeah, again, because people don't believe that. That's the issue. I think that's a lot of the issue. Is just people are like, no, and you're like, it's not even a conspiracy. I'm not saying he's a lizard person. I'm just being like, this fixed politics. And they're like, no. I'm like, all right. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, it's just so hard.
I guess I was. It's funny. So we had our county libertarian meeting today, and me and another guy were sitting there eating lunch together and talking about
mine's tomorrow.
Oh, nice. So we were talking about like conspiracy theories and stuff, and I was like, "Do you remember the Mel Gibson movie from like the '90s or maybe late '90s, early 2000s, Conspiracy Theory?" And like, so when we're watching that movie when I'm in high school, he starts going into all this stuff, and my dad's like, "Oh, if you thought that was cool, let me show you this stuff." And like, we go into his office, and he starts pulling out all these like magazines and newspapers and stuff, and showing us different like conspiracy type stuff that he's been following over the years. So like, I was raised by, he wasn't like, batshit crazy type conspiracy theorist, but he definitely got down with that kind of stuff and paid attention to it. And so I kind of had it ingrained into me from a young age that the whole thing was bullshit and you should definitely be questioning everything at all times. But like, not enough people have that kind of an upbringing, and so people are just way too trusting.
Way too trusting. Yeah, I also think like, again, like I grew up in Staten Island, New York. My wife grew up in fucking Newtown, Pennsylvania. Very different. By the way, we were born the same year, 2 weeks apart. Like 2 weeks apart, and with these very different upbringings. Like very different. Like lessons learned on the street. Like I learned, like I have street smarts. She definitely doesn't. It's not an insult. It's just true, right? Like there's no street smarts in Newtown, Pennsylvania. Like it's just not. It's not her fault. It's just there's not. Like so. Sometimes like
and the funny thing is anybody that has lived in that area knows exactly what you mean, because
it's for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, any small town that you're from, just think of that and think there's no crime, and then you grew up there. Just think, put yourself in that position. It's just like, so I feel like sometimes she's like a little too trusting in people, and I'm like, the guy's probably a scumbag. Like, I can't prove it, I just feel it in my heart. Like, I just know. It's just like, it's like a sense. It's like you can't necessarily have a tangible thing, but you just like, I feel scumbaggery in this person. I feel it's so seeping off their fucking port. Like, it's like, it's kind of like the whole things when girls are like, that guy wasn't trying to fuck me. I'm like, yeah, they were. Were you out of your, like, they're not a dude. So they don't see it from a dude's perspective. But I'm like, we do. I'm like, that guy's a scumbag. Or not even scumbag, but you'd be like, no, because like if I was trying to fuck you, that's what I'd be doing. Right. It's like I know the trick. Just like she would know the female trick if a girl was trying to like, bang like a dude. Same thing. It's just like, you're like, oh, I see what's going on there. That's a female trick. Or like with us, like, oh, it's a dude trick. I see it. And they're like, what? What do you mean? I'm like,
no, he was just being really sweet.
I'm like, men don't want to talk to you. Any woman.
He was really interested in what I had to say, and he really wanted to buy me 3 drinks.
Right? Yeah. I have a wild story that my wife will openly tells the story. This isn't like a weird thing, but like on our honeymoon 5 years ago, we were in Vegas. And we go to this place I've been to before. I've been to Vegas a bunch before our honeymoon, called a Blue Martini. And this is when I used to drink. But it was this awesome like martini bar, like right off the strip. They make like all these wild martinis, like fucking like white chocolate macadamia nut martini, like fucking Oreo martini, regular, like they were really good. Strong, but really good. They had like live music going on. So I'm like, hey, you're gonna love this place. So we go. She has like 1.5 or 2 margaritas and got like obliterated. Like, so I thought, right? I'm like, oh, this is crazy drunk for 2 martinis. Here's where it gets bad. So I'm like, all right, we got to go back to the hotel. Like, you're like literally can't even like sit up at the table right now. So I'm physically walking her through the MGM lobby, which is a major hotel in Vegas. And then she's so out of it. She looks at me. She's like, who are you? I was like, what? Shut up. Shut up. Stop yelling that. And she's like, where's my, like, you're not my husband. She's like, oh, my husband coming to kick your ass. I'm like, I can't prove I'm not her husband, right? Like, there's no way to prove that. So it just looks like I'm dragging a small blonde chick through the hotel hammered as she's yelling, you're not my husband.
You were lucky you didn't get picked up by security.
So, dude, I'm like, I'm making words. I'm like, shut up, you idiot, shut up, bitch. Like, I had her out, like dragging her up a elevator. So we get into the hotel room, and then we're on Vegas time, don't forget. So 3 hours behind the East Coast. It's like 3 a.m. at East Coast time. She calls her brother and sister to be like, I'm being kidnapped. Well, luckily I didn't answer it. I also didn't know she had her phone. So I had to rip her phone away. Fucking. And then she had it. So what actually I think happened, because like I've been with her for a while now, and I've never seen her like that without drinking like way more than 2 martinis. I think someone fucking drugged her drink and was like, "Were you trying to hook me up?" Like I was with her regardless. So like that guy was just trying to like, I got you, bro. Let me fucking drug this bitch. Like, because I'm telling you, that's what it had to be. That because it was wild. I'd never seen her like that. Even like forget who I was ever again in my life. So, but like this, that's not the funny part. The funny part is me just dragging her through a hotel. Just as a I don't know how I didn't go. Because again, I can't prove that she's not. If she would have had a sober up the next morning and then come down and get me, that was the only way out of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, wild story. Wild fucking story. Oh, you know what? I gotta make that a bit. That's 100% a bit.
Yeah, you can work that in.
100% a bit. Yeah, all right. That's why I like doing podcasts.
See, positive stuff comes out of it.
I've told that story, by the way, hundreds of times. I never once was like, that's a bit until right now. It's 100% a bit. It's so funny. Okay. Asshole. I'm so fucking dumb. That's why I'm just fucking not successful. Anything I do. I'm fucking retarded.
That's interesting. So we saw you the first time at the Mises Caucus thing at the LPPA there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then we got to hang out with you in Lockhart.
Yeah, that was fun.
Bucks, and that was a blast.
Dude, I was sweating on stage before I even grabbed the microphone. It's so hot, and it was nighttime. What the fuck? I was like, I felt like it's colder. And they're like, nah, this is hot. I was like, oh, but then it got mad cold like 2 hours after that. I was like, oh, I need a jacket. I'm like chilly. Yeah. I remember pulling the mic out of the stand, and I remember like looking down at one point. I'm like, is that my sweat? I was like, that's crazy.
But anyway, but then later on, when we were hanging out at the bar, it was freezing. Yeah, it was freezing.
But yeah, so we hung out. Yeah, we hung out. That was fun as fuck. Yeah.
Well, it's funny here. Your wife is Stephanie. My wife is also Stephanie. We got married about 5 years ago as well. Like we're kind of then that was really cool. You and her hanging out because she had you like opening up and talking about all kinds of stuff. I was like, what is going on over there? He's like bearing his soul. Apparently,
it's funny because that's how I remembered your wife's name. I think I told her that. I was like, it's easy because I'm married to one, so I'll never forget. So I'm also like such a fucking like open book guy, where you just be like, "What do you think of this?" I'm like, "I'll tell you, whatever." Like, cause I don't give a shit. Like, what are you gonna make fun of me? All right, who cares? Like, it's like I don't have like a fucking like a job where like you don't know I'm a fucking idiot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I could get in trouble. Like, who gives a shit? Just ask me. I'll answer you honestly. Like,
so have you done? I'm sure quite a few other events this year, like with the libertarian stuff and traveling around and everything.
Yeah, I did the Virginia Mises thing, which was fun in Fairfax. I have more stuff lined up next year already. I might be doing the Arizona convention with Dave. I'm not sure though. Yeah, double down. I gotta double check that. But yeah, I just did the Montgomery County holiday party. MPA stand up. I wrote Blazing. That was fun. I'm actually doing the I'm doing, so you guys saw me at the convention this year, but that was a Mises. That wasn't the official LPPA. That was the Mises thing. The LPPA asked me to do stand up this year at the convention.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, dude, this is how paranoid I am with all the caucus stuff. I called Heist and I went, hey, is this a trap? I was like, why do they want me? They know I'm Mises. They know I'm with you. I feel like this is a trap. Like, this is a trick. And he's like, no, I think they're trying to like good faith it. They're like, look, we're bringing on people that you guys have. Like to do, and like they figured, I think that Heist's whole idea was like, they rather us, like them take a comedian from us than Dave is going to talk about real shit who actually is going to fucking, ruin their night, as opposed to me, who I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to be a dick. Like I want to roast so many PA people because it'd be easy and fun. Right. But I'm like, no, it'll make me make us look bad, make the MC look bad. So I'm just going to do a good show. Right. But the whole back of my mind, I'm like, I feel like this is still a trap. They're gonna like unplug my mic and be like, "God, we hate you," and like close the curtains on me. Like, oh, I don't know. But no, like they like I'm bringing out Neil and Blaze to do it too, and like they're paying everybody. I think they're giving them, and I think they're giving me a room too, which is sweet. So everybody's getting rooms and shit. So I was like, all right, I don't trust this stuff. I was like,
you can at least play nice. Besides, picking on them is low hanging fruit. Like, what is the accomplishment?
I know. So I'm just gonna do regular. So be assured, everybody, I'm not gonna be a dick. I'm just gonna do regular stuff.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I got more stuff on the coming up on the road next year. Just trying to get the fuck out there again and get paid.
One of the most fun things that I've done this year is traveling to these different events and stuff. I took my son and we went to Birmingham for a Mises Institute event, and that was where we met Buck and Tho Bishop for the first time, and got to hang out, and we met Pete there and Jeff Dice, and like it was a blast. And I took my son, so like he got to meet all these guys cool. And like hear them talk and be a part of that, and so it was really awesome.
It's weird for me doing comedy at all these events because like I have Tom Woods looking at me and I'm like, I'm about to make a priest fuck his kids joke. So here it comes. Like, and we got to see like Jeff Dice, who was like in the crowd. Like, I'm like, are they laughing? Oh, they are? Okay, cool. Like, I'm so nervous to piss them off. These people like I enjoy, like I look up to and stuff like, and not look up, look up to is weird when you're an adult. But you know what I'm saying? Like, admire at least. And, yeah, sometimes as a man, you sound like such a bitch when you say that. Holy shit. I look up to this other man. What am I, fucking 7? No, I admire guys like Tom Woods and Jeff. They're very smart. I appreciate their intellect and their combativeness of the state and all that shit. But I'm not a simp for Tom Woods. That's what I want to clarify that right now. So, but it is funny seeing their faces in the audience look at me smiling. I'm like, oh, this is so weird. This is so weird. But yeah, I met Buck at his house in Lockhart. Yeah, he was super cool. That's the second time I hung out with Scott Horton. I met Scott initially at the LPA real quick at the convention. Then we actually hung out in Texas, which was cool at the show, and like that was fun as fuck. Like Scott Horton running by his stand-up material. He ran that shit by Robbie and I first in Lockhart. That he did a surprise stand-up set at Tom Woods' 2000th episode, and he pulls Robbie and I aside. He's like, "Hey, they kind of run some jokes by you." I was like, do you know who you are? Did you meant to say something else? He's like, no, I'm doing stand-up. I was like, oh, okay. So we started, and then driving, I gave him a few tags, and I know he used one of my tags that worked. And I know he mentioned that on Part of the Problem. I was like, yeah, Scott, say my name.
God, I bet he would be great at stand-up because he's just so like quick and dry. Like,
yeah. I mean, a lot of his jokes were kind of just like one line mean jokes, which are funny. They're like, yeah, like meanie, like, it's like roasting people. They were good though. Like they were pretty good for like, somebody doesn't do fucking stand up. I just shut off for no reason. It did. This has been a problem for 4 years. It's like, we'll just shut off. The fan will just turn on for no reason. It just light goes on and off. It's a real piece of shit. I gotta get an electrician out here.
It's
But
the ghost.
that's what my wife says. And I'm starting to believe it. That there is a fucking ghost.
We won't go into supernatural, paranormal type stuff. That's an episode all of its own, and I'm pretty sure we've got at least 2 ghosts in this house. So.
Dude, I don't. As I got older, I became so much more of like, I don't know what was out there. Like when I was younger, I was like, nah, that shit's fake. But I don't know. Like most videos, 99% of videos you see are bullshit, right? You're just like, this is bullshit, straight bullshit. It's fake. You could tell it's off. It's someone's hoaxing for a purpose, right? Like, why are you filming this scene? I've always questioned myself a lot of these. Like, why would you already be filming this? Like this random, mundane, and then you have to glance over and be like, oh, like, okay. It's just so steady. But like, there's a handful of videos out there, and you're like, what the fuck was that? It's so okay. I am going down a rabbit hole. Fuck. All right. So there's one where this guy was on Facebook Live, which you can't doctor a Facebook Live video.
Right.
And he's like, I saw the thing outside my house again. I saw the thing outside my house again. He's like smoking a cigarette. And he opens the door and you see, and it's a shitty, you can't really see it, but this giant thing on not Bigfoot, but like, it looked almost like an ostrich. If I had to describe it to a real thing that you could describe it to, it was nighttime, but run behind these telephone poles and just go away. And you saw it. And people were like, oh, it was a cigarette smoke. It was a cigarette smoke. I was like, no, it wasn't. Like you could tell, like, you could just tell. And it was like, I was like, God damn, what the fuck was that? And you can't make out what it is. People even slow down the frame footage and try to frame it, but it's the camera quality shit. That's one that makes me go, ever hear the Fresno Nightcrawlers? Look that shit up. It's like, it looks dumb and it looks like a hoax, but I'm going to tell you why it's not in a second. It's essentially, it looks like an adult and baby. Not kidding. You know how like when you put a sheet over a kid as a Halloween costume and cut eye holes loose as a ghost? It's like the lamest costume of all time. That's what it looks like. Walking through a field, but it's an open field and their movements are weird. There was a show on Sci-Fi years ago called Fact or Faked. And it was like a team of like, one of the guys was like a FBI fucking forensic guy. There's like a journalist, a movie prop guy. It was like a team of like a bunch of different expertises got together and they would try to recreate paranormal videos to be like, this is probably what it was. They did 7 experiments and they're like, we haven't even got close to looking like this video. Like not even close. And we're intentionally trying to recreate it. And we can't even do it. And I was like, damn, dude, it's a wild, I'm not doing it justice. I'm not, but if you type in Fresno Night, there's 2 videos from 2 separate incidents. And it looks like a sheep walking awkwardly through like a field. And the other one was like down a street. There was like a baby and a big one. And then the second video was just one by itself. But it's very clear as day. And like their movement looks like they're on stilts almost, but they're not. It's like, but like, like the Ministry of Walking Funny in the fucking Monty Python? Kind of looks like something like that. And it's so baffling. And then again, when they try to recreate it, and no one could do it, I was like, what is it? What is it? Like, I don't think it was fake. I don't. And then there was also, I saw like this couple saying they had like a cabin in the woods and they had like a bunch of sounds around their shit. And then this guy took 2 pictures of what he says was like this Bigfoot-like creature looking into his window. And you see it from like here up, like his nose, mustache area, like up to the top of his head. And again, we've all seen movies. We've all seen fake Photoshop stuff. You know if something's fake or not. Like we still do. I know people like, you can't tell. Yeah, you can. Like we still have that in us where I think we could separate what's not real and is real. I feel like for the most part. And like when I see these pictures, something guttural is like, that it's like legitimate. It's not a mask. Like it's too real for a fucking mask. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like one of those things where it's like it hits you. And you're like, I don't know, dude. It looks very honest. And like there's that. So those things out there make me always go, I don't know. Like just those, but most things you see are bullshit. It's complete bullshit and could be answered.
So something I did year zero with Tommy a few weeks ago, and
it was awesome.
We talked about like our spiritual journeys and stuff. And that was something that we kind of talked about a little bit, was like paranormal type stuff. And like, because I'm a hunter, and when you spend a lot of time out in the woods by yourself, especially like close to sunup and close to sundown, like, is it the light? Is it the wind? You see some weird shit that if you're not really paying attention, or you kind of catch it out of the side, out of the corner of your eye, it's like, what was that? And then you just don't think about it and move on with life. Because if you get to thinking about it too much, then then it starts to get weird. That's.
Give me an example of something you've seen that you can't explain in the woods hunting.
So not like, I've never seen what I would have thought was like a person, or like a bipedal type
right
thing, but you'll see like it's clearly head arm shapes, like specter like movement, especially, and you think that it's the light, or the way the sun's coming up, or the way the fog is kind of starting to settle, or whatever. Because usually it's on like the edge of the tree line, and it's just sort of moving across. And
do you ever take a pop shot at it? Just see if it hits. You're ow! Like I knew it.
So like you'll see it, you'll see it move, and then it'll like stop, and then it'll move some more, and it's like, okay, like what the, just you don't think about it. I mean, I've got a gun, so worst comes to worst, I can scare it away. Maybe, I don't know, like. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, if it is legitimately some sort of like supernatural creature, what's my gun gonna do? Like,
Did you ever hear of like crawlers? So they're apparently like these elongated beings, but they're like very white, like pale white, and they not zombie like, but apparently like these things are seen often. A lot of them, like there's a lot of, like if you go on Reddit and just go like crawler site, like it's a lot of people giving the same exact description of this creature, essentially is this thing in the woods that fucking hunt. I don't know what it does, but there's a picture out there online that's been heavily debated if it's fake, not. But apparently there's been like forensic editing or video test done on it. Apparently it's not fake. But there's a picture out there they think is like a legitimate, from I think not a trail cam, security cam. Like there's a still footage, it's one still picture of a crawler. And again, they know it's not photoshopped. So either it's real or it was like a fucking hoax that just never got, they're just letting it be a hoax forever.
And nobody ever took credit for it.
No. I'm pretty sure. The problem is like trying to find that fucking picture.
See, now I've got all these rabbit holes I'm going to end up just diving down.
I know. I suck. I'm sorry.
It's a good thing I didn't need to sleep tonight, because
I know it's. Damn it. Crawler sightings. Bam. Hold on. Top all time. Come on. Show me the picture. This is it. I found it. It's 10 years old. Oh, it is a trail cam. Okay. So I'm going to show you, but it's not going to be great because you see it on my phone. This is it.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah. That's.
Oh, yeah. That right there. So from like, again, like all intents and purposes, like if no one's ever. But like no one's ever came out and was like, this is fake. And I know they had them test, and it's very interesting.
See, that has similar appearances to like what I've seen on the edge of tree lines, but only I've never been able to like make out legs.
But apparently those things are, no pun intended, crawling around our woods in America.
Yeah.
Over here, the missing 411.
What is that?
It's we have a lot of people go missing in our national parks, but like unexplained missing, not like, oh, I fell down a thing and I cracked my head. Like, people will go missing, like experienced hikers and experienced campers and hunters will go missing in places they've been hunting their whole fucking life. And like they'll find their shoes and like pants neatly folded up together on like a rock, and their body like fucking traversed like somewhere nowhere near their shit. And they're like, how the fuck did this happen? Like it's, and then it's like, oh no one shot him, no one stabbed him, he's fucking dead, or he's completely missing. Usually the body's completely gone. That's the other thing too. The body's usually completely gone, but their clothes and stuff are found. And like I said, like there's one story. It's a very famous 401 story where the guy, experienced dude, been going out to the same place forever, snowmobiling in the same place. They found his shit folded neatly, nowhere near his fucking camping shit. They found one extra piece of clothing, mad far away from the other fucking far away points, and they never found his body. And the way, like the way they showed the map, he would have had to travel so fucking much on foot. It just made no sense. And here's the other interesting part: if you put a map and pin dot all the missing 401s on in America, right? And then you overlay that map with a map of our cave system, it's almost perfect.
Well, for anybody curious, make sure you listen to this episode in daylight, not at night. I'm going to be closing the blinds for the rest of the night.
Yeah, I've also like I never seen a ghost, and I've never like seen a. I saw a creature one time that no one believes. I told the story multiple times. I saw what I perceived to be some sort of UFO one time that no one believes. And then I also one time, I swear to God, my wife and I like glitched in time, not not like years, like literally like right, real quick. So again, I'm from Staten Island, lived there my whole life except for when I got married 5-6 years ago. Okay, we were going to Mexico, so I was driving. We were leaving from JFK, not Philly, which is retarded. Never do that. So we had to go back through New York to get to JFK, which is in Queens. I know how to get home from Newtown to Staten Island. I've taken it many a time. You know what I'm saying? I know where to go. It's like 4 a.m. We left early, and I'm wide awake. Wide awake. She's passed out in the driver's seat, in the passenger seat, and at one point, I say to myself, I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, why have I not seen the fucking exit to get off to where I'm supposed to go yet? And I feel like I've been driving too long, and like, then I start to look around me and I'm like, I'm in Jersey still, but like, I don't know where the fuck I am. Like, this isn't the route I take to go home. Even there's more than two routes, but like, even either of those routes, this is not, I don't recognize these like store layouts. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in fucking Red Bank. Now, why that's important is for you to get to Newtown to Staten Island, you either take Route 1 straight until you see Outerbridge Crossing and then you get off. Or you take 267, I think it is, like through Trenton kind of, and then like the back way, which I usually take that way, the turnpike, because it's faster. Yeah. Either of those ways, you would have to still take multiple exits to get to Red Bank. In other words, I just can't drive from Newtown straight into Red Bank. It's impossible. I would have to take multiple exits to get to Red Bank. So I was like, but I never turned off the highway. Ever. I just kept going. Like once I got onto the highway by our house, I just kept going the way I would normally go. And then I remember like looking at her and be like, hey, this is weird. And she was like kind of sleeping. And I was like, never mind, you're not. This is just so you're not even gonna believe what I'm saying right now. But I was like, I'm telling you, there's like and like we didn't like. And then every time I tell a story, people are like, well, what time was it? I go, that's the thing. We didn't really lose time It's like almost like I just jumped, like I teleported almost is like my best way of describing it, but it's not what happened. I didn't go through like a teleportation device, it's just, or like a ripple on time. I'm just telling you, like it was like force 20, odd enough, oddly enough. And then like I remember like looking up again at Red Bank and it was still 420. And I was like, or 425, like only like the same amount of time that driving, it all made sense. All the time was relative to me driving. But like I was like, all right, well, guess I gotta use my GPS now and like figure out how the fuck to get to JFK because I don't know where the fuck I am. And then I got to JFK and we made our flight and everything. And I've been to Red Bank plenty of times too, from Staten Island though. So, it was just a very, very, and people were like, oh, you were highway tired. I'm like, no, I wasn't. I wasn't highway tired. I just got on the highway and like I was wide awake. I was driving to Mexico. I wasn't tired. People like, no, you just got lost on the highway. I go, dude, okay, fine. Even if I did, how did I end up in Red Bank? And they're like, well, you just took a multiple. I lost where I was and I just kept making right fucking hand turns.
So you
off exits.
You just happened to forget about like all these exits you took and all these different turns you made.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But that was a very weird moment of my life. Neil does not believe me. He thinks I'm crazy.
I'm trying to remember. There was a show where they were talking about like weird paranormal stuff, and it might have been when the Lions of Liberty guys do their conspiracy corner. I think they may have been talking about it one night. Like had a guy on to talk about it, but it was like a similar story that they were driving somewhere, like heading out west, and like it was like they just went through like a time lapse where they were suddenly nowhere near where they should have been, but like no time passed, like not enough time passed, and it was just like, how did we end up here? Like where is here? Like we were just driving perfectly straight down this long open road, and now we're somewhere that we shouldn't be. Like yeah. So no, I don't doubt you for a second. There's definitely something weird that goes on out there.
The UFO one was funny because like I was driving home from a gig in New Hope, which is, for everybody who doesn't know, right above Newtown, like 15 minutes from Newtown. But like it's mostly woods and farm between the two towns. So I'm making my usual drive back. I see like this orange ball of light, like kind of right above the tree line, not high above the tree line, like right above the tree line. And it's like going really quick and stops and just goes shoot straight up into the sky. And I remember like that was wild. I remember getting home and like my wife was like sleeping kind of, but I'd be like, hey, I think I saw a UFO. And she went, no, you fucking did it. And just went back to sleep. I was like, okay. I guess I did it.
Like, thanks for being supportive, dear.
I was like, I'm sorry. I guess I thought I did, but I guess I didn't.
Or if you did, it was not nearly important enough to interrupt her sleep.
Because if she saw that, that definitely wake me up and tell me. That's crazy. I want to know. I want to know the story. And then the other, like I said, the other thing I saw was like this little creature thing. Also, it was outside of, Neil and I run a monthly show in Chalfont, Bucks County, at this place called the Pop In. And it was there where Chalfont's a residential area. And like 4 houses down from where we were in a group, this is what's more annoying about the story, is motherfuckers were outside with me. And it was one of those things where like I was the only one seeing something. Like no one else was acknowledging. Like they were all just in their fucking circle talking. And I just remember like looking down the block, being like, that's a fucking weird looking cat. Huh. I don't think that's a cat. It's gone. Did you guys fucking see that? They're like, nah. I was like, but, and then I described it. And what I saw was something about this size. I don't know, like big cat size. Okay. Like a big cat, like a real big cat, like a fat, big cat. It was like a dark gray or black fur, I want to call it. And it was sitting on the ground, like I was sitting like a gargoyle's perched almost, like on a ledge. And it's like front legs were like longer than its back legs, if that makes sense. Like you could tell, even if it was like, you could just tell it was longer. And its tail wasn't like a cat tail or a dog tail. It would look like the best way I could describe it is it looked like a bush-tailed deer's tail, like a white-tailed deer's tail, but with the white under it. So it was the only part that had white on its fur, was that little part of the tail. And this is the weirdest part. Its head looked like, and the only way I could describe it is remember the Mousers from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah.
That's kind of was its head shape. And it just took like 2 like bounces, like leaps behind his house and was gone. And I was like, "Do you guys fucking see the Mouser thing?" And they're like, "Nah, dude, you're seeing shit. That was a cat." I was like, "Bro, I know what a fucking cat looks like, guy. That wasn't a cat. That was a fucking Mouser thing." And they're like, "Nah." I was like, "I saw what I saw. I'm telling me no to all my stuff." Like, that was it. Those were all my really only ever paranormal things ever in my whole life that personally has like I've been involved with. That's not true. One more, but that's kind of too long of a story. And it really wasn't affecting me personally. It's I'll tell you next time. It's not. It's weird, but it's not. It didn't. Like I was part of the story, but it didn't happen to me. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was whatever. Essentially, it was this video of this woman and her son were saying like they were being like fucked with. Like they thought someone's breaking their house and moving or stealing shit. And what this woman did was she filmed herself and her son sleeping in her, like it was wild because the room was like regular room, 4x4 wall, walls and shit. And she filmed herself walking in the room. Hold on. Oh, sorry. I thought my wife said there's a bug down here. There's a bag down here. Got it. Okay. I was like, did I go kill a bug right now? She's there's a bag. She filmed herself walking in her bedroom. She's like, "Hey, I want to prove I'm not fucking faking anything." She's like, "My son's in here." They lived alone. The father was, I think, like dead. Like he wasn't even in the picture. And like they didn't have any family in the area. And she puts the camera down like a nightstand in the 90-degree angle part of the wall. And then her and her son go to sleep. And the whole room is in frame. The whole room. And you can see like the doors, the window, and the closet. All in frame. Okay. Like 4 hours into the video, all of a sudden, the camera just fucking picks up from the fucking like stool, kind of pans the room a little bit, and just drops kind of back into place, but off kilter a little bit. And then, like, you fast forward it, they wake up, shut the camera off. The fuck was that?
Yeah.
Dude, it was
all right.
Wild shit.
I definitely won't be sleeping tonight. I don't know. I'm a little more of the opinion that if there are things, they're probably not here to hurt anything. Like I don't know
that crawler looks like it sure is.
And that thing could catch a fucking bullet. But
look up Fresno night crawlers. Not the same thing at all. Fresno night, watch it, and then I'm telling you, I'm gonna get a DM from you being like, "Dude, you're right. That shit's fucking weird. It's not scary at all. It's not. I promise you. It's just like it looks goofy. That's why it's so interesting because you're like, oh, this isn't scary, but it's not fake. Whatever it is, it's they couldn't reproduce it. They could not reproduce it. So give that a look.
All right, golly, we covered a lot of ground.
That's what I'm good for.
Hell yeah. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
See, now we'll definitely have to do it again because we got to follow up on like all of this stuff.
So, I think for the porcupine, I'm gonna do a like conspiracy episode with Mark Claire, fucking Dickie, and Cole. But I'll have you on too.
All right.
And we'll do like a fucking just a whole hour just conspiracy talk or ghost talk or paranormal, whatever the fuck. Because I think we want to talk about Hollow Earth. That was like the next thing.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm gonna
add you to that group chat. We just got to find a time and day to do it.
Hell yeah. Sounds awesome. Well, Adam, thank you very much for joining me. Give all your plugs and everything because I know you got.
Oh yeah, just go check out the Porcupine. It's available everywhere. Go check out the Cult of Us. It's also available everywhere. YouTube.com/Adam Nutter for the Porcupine. YouTube.com/Cult of Us for the Cult of Us. And I'm also on Odyssey. Just same thing on Odyssey. Yeah, let's build that up too, just in case. Of course, follow me on all the stuff at Adam Nutter on everything. And come see me do stand up. I post all my dates. So come on out. We'll be hitting the road hard in 2022.
Hell yeah. He's a good show. It's very enjoyable.
Thank you.